He is a true hospitality professional. Bob Anderson and his message today will resonate with everybody in restaurants, lodging, and our other hospitality organizations. Bob's been in the hospitality business for over 30 years. Same year, Chart's executive director, Tara, was born. He started his company, Star Performance, 25 years ago. He says he didn't know what he was doing and he was scared to death, but was too dumb to quit and get a real job. So although he says the best deal he has ever closed was in getting his wife to marry him, they have 3 children and recently 1 grandchild. His wife even teases that she's only had buyer's remorse a few times. In 2015, Bob was recognized by HSMAI as one of the top 25 extraordinary minds in sales, marketing, and revenue management. HSMAI is a lodging industry association focused on driving sales and marketing practices within the industry. Bob currently sits on their sales advisory board. He has built the Building the Sales Pipeline prospecting system that has helped many organizations develop a measurable way to prospect business, find new business, and build their internal sales culture. He is the co-host of Best Western Hotels and Resorts Sales Community Calls. He's been a personal friend and colleague for well over a decade. When I was with Best Western, I traveled to many regional meetings and conventions where Bob and I would have a chance to connect. My favorite Bob story is walking into a sketchy sushi restaurant in Davenport, Iowa, in the middle of all places, because it was the only thing that was open near the hotel. I think we went rock, paper, scissors to see who would actually take the first bite. And for our NRA friends, they definitely needed your serve safe training at that particular restaurant. The rest of that story is for another time. He has 2 black belts and is undefeated in the ring in Minnesota, has state titles and 3 cracked ribs to prove it. I'm very, very excited to introduce you to my friend, Bob Anderson. Bob.
Thank you, Colby. I really appreciate that. And it is true. My mother carpooled with Prince's sister for many, many years. And I was supposed to have Thanksgiving with him at her house, but somehow he got a better offer. So I don't know why he wouldn't want to hang with me and Pat. It would have been weird to say, hey, Prince, pass the gravy, but never got that experience. So it is truly an honor to be here. I'm trying to let me get the slide up here. There we go. I have been a fan of Chart for a long time. I had the pleasure a number of years ago to speak at the national convention that was held in DC. And again, I'm in the hospitality. I'm on the hotel side of things, but so many of our hotels have restaurants and the other services. So I'm honored to be here. I really am today. Our topic today is from ramp up to the race is on, new solutions for a new days. Now, it's quite funny because we started planning this, Sarah and Colby, like in January, February, right? And our original title was Ramping Up for the Roaring Recovery, because we didn't know what was going to happen. We had no clue. And oh my gosh, a few months sure can change things. And all of you know that better than anybody. And, you know, the recovery is here. But now how do we solve the new problems, the new solutions for the new days? I know all of us in hospitality, we're facing that problem, that dilemma of attracting and finding and keeping those team members. And so my presentation today is about some ideas that we've used in our side of the hospitality 3 legs, if you will. We've seen some success with these, lots of successes. And I do know that I am speaking to the choir. I don't know, in fact, I know for sure, I've never presented to such an educated group of people in terms of understanding training. So here's the thing. This is what I call an obvious, Bob. And by the way, I know there's that commercial, Captain Obvious. Okay, I'm going to tell you they stole that idea from me because I've been using obvious Bobs forever. Okay, because sometimes, you know, in training, you know, we always want to have the newest and the greatest and the hippest and all these kinds of new cutting edge things. But sometimes you got to go back to the well. Sometimes you got to go back to those foundations. And so there's two kinds of new, something that is new, something you've never heard before. It goes, wow, that makes sense. Or maybe it sparks that idea and get you thinking along a different track to help you do what you do. But a lot of times, and in today's presentation, there's going to be times that you're going to probably say, I already knew that, but I want you to catch yourself. Colby talked about my wonderful wife. Before I got into hospitality all those years ago, I was in the financial industry, and we were fairly successful. We had 3 offices. I had 36 salespeople, and we were doing well. And my wife was my girlfriend at the time, and she was working in our offices. And I would spend my own money to train these people because I knew if they had better skills, obviously I would make more money. And so I'm sitting in this training session, and this sales trainer is going, you got to know how to ask right questions, open-ended questions, closed-end, da, 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 da. And I'm going, duh, nah. And then he'd say something and I'll say, I already know that. And all of a sudden I looked at her and she's just like glaring at me. I go, what? She goes, you know what? You're so phony. I work with you every single day. You don't do any of this stuff. At that point, I knew 2 things. Number one, she was right. It's not what you know, it's what you do. It's what you apply. And secondly, I knew, guess what? I'm going to marry this girl. And again, thank you, Colby. That was the best sale that I ever made. And so I always talk about the 5-20 rule, not the 10-5 rule a lot of us learned in the hospitality side. But if we did 5% more of what we already know we should be doing, I think we'd all be 20% more successful. So hopefully you're going to get some new things, some new ideas, maybe from a different perspective. But then you might hear some things that you go, wow, I've got to implement that into what I'm doing. We reconstructed this process into what we call the 4x4 relay race plan. Have you ever had a brainstorming with a group of peers and things just click? We had a brainstorming with Sarah and Colby and some other folks, and just the lights went on. And in this current relay race of success, we broke the process down into 4 areas. And it's really a race right now. I mean, it's all happening right now. And back at your venues, your restaurants, your hotels, all of this is happening right now. So we're going to talk about the 4 legs of a 4x4 race, a relay race. First, we're going to talk about hiring them. Is it a perfect fit, or do we take that chance? Second is training them. Slow and steady is fast. I learned that in the military. And I'm seeing a lot of folks that are scrambling, and in a way, I know they're in a race, but they're not doing the right things at the right speed. They're rushing it. So therefore they're getting behind. Leading them on the go and into the flow. It's something in our industry we are really going to have to focus on, is leading people so they stay with us. You know, we've got to keep them. And then duplicating an often missed opportunity to really inspire loyalty, not just from customers, but from that team. And let our great team members be our recruiters for us, especially now. So we broke it down into 4 areas. And by the way, my oldest child is my son. And I've got a couple stories I'll be weaving into my presentation today about him and my other kids. But the reality is he was on the state 4x4 team, and he was all conference honorable mention. Let's say he's proud of that, okay? And he talked about the most important thing in a 4x4 race. It's a marathon with many sprints. Isn't that like our industry right now? Isn't that what we're going through? And he said the most nerve-wracking thing was that handoff from one to the other. Because you could have the fastest 4 runners in all of North America, but if you blow that handoff, it's all for naught. Now, some of you are running a 3x3. Or maybe you've got the hiring in place, okay? Now it's the training, leading, and duplicating. So that's what we're going to break it down. Now, first, what I'm going to do is set the stage a bit. Let's talk about picking that team, okay? If you're that coach and you're training your leaders in your businesses, they got to pick that team. And they got to pick the right team for the right reasons, obviously. And there's 3 kinds of team members. You got your current team that are tired. You got the people that are coming back that are rusty, And then you have those new people that are green. So here's the thing, and this is something that I'm seeing that is getting overmissed in our industry a little bit. And I'm not negative at all. It's just the reality, and that's why we're here. That's why we all do what we do. The current team, the ones that were able to stay on, they didn't get furloughed. They stayed on. They did the work. One person did the work of 3 to 5 people. They're survivors, right? And they are tired. How can we re-energize those folks? We're going to talk about some ideas with that. And here's the thing that I'm seeing a lot. A lot of the properties that I work with are offering bonuses and things to try and track people. But sometimes they're forgetting those people that stayed the course, that fought. And I hear from these people all the time. They say, well, gosh, well, what about me? You know, so just because I'm not new, I'm not going to get a bonus or something like that. There's a little bit of that resentment. We got to build that in. We got to re-energize those folks because they are a little bit tired out. Are these your new designated or undesignated leaders? We're going to talk about the baton handoff of leadership, okay? And maybe from a different way than we're used to hearing about leadership. But I believe in every organization, when you go and you're going into your businesses and your outlets and things that you're training, every business, whether it's a small 10-person property or business to a 100-person property or business, you have the designated leaders who've earned that title. That's wonderful. But more importantly, you have those undesignated leaders, those people that don't have that title, but they can get more done sometimes than the designated leaders. Is this current crop of people that survived, are they the ones that are your undesignated leaders, the true influencers? And how do you recognize that? We'll talk more about that later. And what can we learn from these folks? You know, necessity is the mother of all invention. They survived it. They probably have some ideas that are, we got to listen to those folks and acknowledge what they've gone through this process. So that's the first group that we will be talking about. The second group is those rusty folks, okay? These were the folks that were furloughed a little bit. You can see up in the top right there, maybe in a restaurant, they're so rusty, they don't even know how to spill milk. And yes, this is a picture from me just this morning. This is live stuff, folks. No stock photos here. I went and spilled milk all over, okay? These folks are rusty. And you have to find out, those leaders that you're training, we've got to find out from these rusty folks, are they mad that they were furloughed? Or are they glad to be back? Are they bitter or are they better? Are they bitter because they kind of resented being let go? And it was nothing personal. It was just something, it was a business decision that we had to make to survive. But not all people are understanding of that. They're going, well, why me versus them? Some of them are better. Why? Because in the meantime, maybe they worked in a different industry. Maybe they learned some new skills. Man, we got to tap into that to help, you know, formal leadership or undesignated kind of leadership setting to capitalize on those skill sets. And again, are they the designated or undesignated? And here's the biggest thing. When we have people that are coming back that we're training for what we're going through, running this 4x4, do we really understand why they came back? You know, I hear stuff in hospitality all the time that people are leaving our industry, going to assisted living, going to some other types of industries and verticals. And we have to be cognizant of that. What makes what we do so exciting? What is the temperament of the kinds of folks that succeeded? Why do you stay in this industry? We need to know that. And that's a great conversation to have so we know what we're working from. And then the new green team, the greenies, the newbies, we all know. We're going to get to those folks in just a moment. All right, let's roll in here. Now, we always have to look at ourselves in the mirror, right? Everything begins with what we see about ourselves. And I'm not trying to be a little preachy here, but I'm going to be a little preachy because I think we just have to go through these things. Your coaching mindset, the people you're coaching, their mindset. how they're duplicating, how they're looking at the teams, and how leadership and developing people has changed based on this experience of the last 15 months. And so have that look in that mirror. I've been working with a number of people, not just on the sales side, but on the leadership side, because it's really needed, and on the service side. And we're really asking ourselves, you know, when we are that leader, when we're training the leaders, do we now, based on what's happened, need to be a little bit more patient? That's a hard thing to admit. But here's the beautiful thing. When you're looking at the mirror, let's face it, we've all had those days. Have you ever had this kind of day? You just weren't in it. You just, the day you just couldn't get the momentum. Susan, you just like, man, I'm out of it today. I just can't do it. You go home and you look yourself in the mirror and say, boy, did I have them full day today. You know, you're almost guilty about taking the money, but you don't tell anybody, you accept the day's pay, okay? And then you have these other days that, man, you were just on fire. Snap, sizzle, woo, you're just on fire. Maybe we all have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, do I need to be more patient than I was before? Are people going through something? Is there a delayed crisis that they're dealing with mentally and emotionally? Do we have to be more patient? On the other hand, maybe we've got to be a little bit more assertive. You know, as leaders, as training the staff to roll out these programs, do they have to assert them? Do they have to have higher standards? Do they have to shrink the timelines for what we're doing? And yes, they do, but there's a way to do it the right way. Will you be open to trying new ideas, or we're trying old ideas? Here's the thing, we've got to change. It has changed us. What we did before it didn't work in the past when we tried new ideas, but maybe it'll work now. You might like the new you. So look, that's the first part of looking yourself in the mirror. The other thing is, we talk about this with a lot of one-on-one coaching that we do. What we have to let go of. What are your pet peeves? What is your pet peeves for when you're coaching, training, and leading people? What things just drive you crazy? What things just make you want to get in a car and drive until you run out of gas? We all have them. Again, we might have to let go of those. Do we want to control every aspect of the business? Are we wanting to hire the perfect candidate? And maybe right now, as we all know, maybe that perfect candidate does not exist. Will this be temporary, or is this the new way of leading? I don't have the answer to that. I really don't. And it's impossible to know. We'll talk about the crystal ball a little bit. So let's break this down. We're going to go now break in leg 1, 2, leg 3, and 4 of what we are giving you as ideas, things that hopefully support what you're already doing. Maybe will spark something that you haven't done for a while. Maybe this will help us give us some ideas to roll this out in the expedited amount of time that we have. First of all, hiring, okay? On your mark, get ready, set, bang. How many have ever been in a race? You know, you go up to that line, you know, you're kind of nervous. You just wonder what's going to go on. You get up there and boom, we're off. And it's that good start that is so important. And the race is fast. And this goes back to what I was mentioning just before, the current reality. How long will it last? Again, we don't know the answer to that. I've checked every other day on Amazon, and they're backlogged on crystal balls. I don't know when mine's going to arrive. Every time the Amazon truck goes by, my dog goes crazy. I go, maybe my crystal ball's here. We don't know. And some of the basics, that this is kind of some obvious bobs here. The basics that you already know. Are you using bonuses or bribes to get people to come in? Are you using more flexible hours? Are you having a referral contest? I'm not going to break down those things because I think those are pretty obvious to most folks that you're training of what they're already doing. Probably corporately have programs. Some work, some don't. But once you get them, once you have that person that you're going to interview by using these kinds of tools, what has to happen now? One of the things that we are seeing in our side of hospitality is that more people are involved in the hiring process. It's no longer just HR. It's no longer just the vice president. It's no longer the general manager, the store manager. There's more people that are involved in that. We got to train the leaders on proper interview skills. And for a lot of people, proper interview skills are, what's your name and when can you start? I mean, I've seen that. I've seen people that use interviewing as more of a filling out a survey. We've got to train them to have that. And I'm sure you've got things set up to really do that. The other thing is they got to be engaging and knowledgeable about the process. They've got to be engaging. They've got to have the fire. They got to have that belief. And I would rather have somebody who's an undesignated leader help co-interview somebody when that person, while they don't have the leadership or the title, they've got that excitement. They've got the passion. They love what they're doing. Pulling those people into that interview is going to help this new crop of candidates get more excited about picking your business versus others. And here's the key point. While we're interviewing the candidate is also interviewing you. I mean, that has to be first and foremost. It's no longer I have 5 candidates to interview for one position. Now we might have one candidate for 4 positions, okay? And they have the power in a way to call the shots. So we have to understand that. And again, if the interview is not excited, why would the candidate be excited? And you all know this. This is one of those obvious bobs or those already knew this. But what are we doing to train the people that aren't day in, day out interviewing people to have that skill set? What tools are we giving them in a training standpoint, a guide, an outline, a blueprint to hire people? Now, here's some of the good news of the current crop of folks that we are interviewing. The benefits of I want to work personality. I am not judging here, okay? Okay. In some situations, I could certainly understand, the financial side of getting extra pay. Okay. If I was in that situation and had a single father and had 2 kids, hey, I'm not in their shoes. No judgment. But there are still certain people that, while in many cases, they could make more income, net income, by staying on the extended unemployment. And I know a lot of states and, they're starting to wave off that. But think about this crop of people who could make as much or more money staying at home that are out in the workforce. To me, this is a positive thing. And I'm on the hotel side of it. The people that we are talking to now that are applying for jobs at that front desk, the housekeeping in the restaurants, in the hotels, it is a unique personality. It's people who don't want to just stay home. I'll tell you what, a silver lining of all this in my little humble mind here is that some of the best people we'll ever hire are the ones we're interviewing now because they really want to work. They really want to gain a career, which I'll talk more about later. What's that upside of a fresh canvas? Well, we have people that don't. Now, there's positives with people who have a lot of experience, and there's positives of folks that are brand new. That fresh canvas, that's that person who's not worked in your industry before, that's not worked in your business before. Can't we mold them? Can't we help guide them? Wouldn't you have liked to have, and maybe you did, we're going to talk about leadership from some of your experiences in the past. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it have been great if when you were starting in your career, you had that right leader that guided you, helped you avoid some of those mistakes that you made? That's the kind of things that when we're training, it's not just skills, it's mindset and it's attitudes. I can teach a skill, but if I can guide a mindset, if I can get somebody, when I train people, my goal is, yes, show them how to do it, but get them to want to do it. Help them create that vision of what this industry that they're going into could give to them. Key points: the thread of success in the fabric of life. I've used that forever. What I find is you find people that have been successful in other areas, and we have to train. Now, you know that. All of you on this call know this. But what are we doing to train those folks that are not used to interviewing? That's where I'm going with that. That person, this isn't their full-time gig, but they're helping out because they're short staffed and the manager had to go drive a van or had to go to the bank or da. And now this person walks in. Teach them to ask that question. Give an example in your life when you've been successful at something. I don't care if it was, maybe you were a great martial artist. Maybe you were darn good at pinball. I don't care. Fabric, thread of success in the fabric light. And then connect those dots. Try to find out those things where maybe they had to apply themselves and work well under pressing situations. Remain calm in the middle of chaos. And when we connect those things, that is the area that you want. Those are the kind of people you want to go to. Now, here's the other thing I find. Sometimes there's no dots. Sometimes people come to us and they have no experience of success that they can communicate. But is there a spark there? Train the team, train these folks to look for that little spark. You have all had that gut instinct. And we've all been burned on this, okay? All of you coming up probably had to interview people and you went with your gut hunch, right? And 1 out of 10 times you're going, hot stick sizzle, man, am I good? Yep, boy, can I read people. But 9 out of 10 times you're going, well, wait a minute. If this person showed up and they got the fire, got the burning desire. And, you know, the first week they were wonderful. And about 4 weeks later, you're going, well, where did the person go that I interviewed 4 weeks ago? What happened? But look for that spark. Here's the other thing that I'm seeing. Maybe the last 15 months, what we all went through with the fear, with the worry, the unknown, that was hard on people, right? You go in a grocery store and you were scared. The first time in my almost 62 years, I went in a grocery store and I was afraid, not for me, but for spreading this stuff to my in-laws and things. It changes your outlook. It really, really does. Maybe there's that other silver lining where some of these folks that we're now interviewing and hiring, these new folks, maybe their outlook has changed. That's why they're out looking when they could be staying at home. There's always a positive lining in everything. Well, that's a few little ditties on that. Now, let's go. Let's dig into some of the beat. We ready to go? Let's do, everybody unmute your phone. Can we unmute their phones? I know you're seasoned trainers, and I know this is corny as the day is long, but that's okay. Sometimes we got to laugh a little. On 3, we're known as woohoo. Whenever we're on with consulting calls and people make big sales and their service scores up and things are going, we yell woohoo. I want the loudest chart woohoo ever. I want my neighbor next door to say, Bob, what are you doing down there again? Okay. On 3, woohoo. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I knew you guys would get it. Oh, I love it. Because, you know, you do these Zoom things and sometimes people go, well, that's not very professional, Bob. But we're trainers. We have fun. Okay. The first handoff. So bang, clock starts, we're running, we're going. We got a good start. We're a little ahead of that other guy and the other lady out there, we're running, okay? Now we got to do the handoff. What does dropping the baton look like? Based on research, the training handoff is critical, okay? Cornell study, average person decides to leave within the first 30 days on a new job. Who knows now, Tammy, maybe it's 3 days. I don't know. Things have shrunk, okay? But the average is 30 days. And the number one reason is not given the knowledge, training, and tools to do the job. That's it. It's not 25 cents an hour. It's not this. It's not that, a free meal. It's they're in this job and they don't know what they're doing. They're overwhelmed and they wish they'd listened to mom and dad and gotten a job at the post office. You probably all could relate to that, okay? And it's funny too, the average person decides to leave in the first 30 days, but in part of this study, the deeper dive, which is not the case anymore, but in the old days, when we get back to those things, it took them 90 days to find a new job. So you got somebody employed for 30 days who wants to be out. They got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Now they got 60 days of really not being engaged. How well is that working? All of your wonderful training and stuff, that they're not engaged. We've got to get them out of the gate. First is that conversation, be clear, be honest, and establish the learning guidelines. I know you all do this. We got to be clear. There's going to be hurdles. There's going to be mistakes. I always believe that when I explain what's called the perfect mistake, to me, the perfect mistake is the mistake that's made and we learn from. Got it? I go to a little credit union and I get these little checks from these different companies and stuff. And I go up there and I went in yesterday to the credit union and they have a brand new guy. The manager waved me over, said, here, you go, they told this young guy named Steve, you're going to work with Bob today because they know I'm in training. The guy messed it up like 4 times. And I'm going, thank goodness I'm not running behind. But it was the perfect mistake. He learned 5 different things. Plus, he gave me $30 more than I owed. Just kidding. I didn't do that. Okay. So the perfect mistake is we got to encourage that with the new folks on learning. You're going to make mistakes. You all know that. Encourage the questions. You know the deal. There are no dumb questions. We all know that. And feedback is information, not an accusation. I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to be honest with you when it works, and I'm going to be honest when it doesn't. It's just not right or wrong. It's just the truth. It's information, not an accusation. You all know that. Here's something I want to share that I've seen work very, very well. What I see in our industry is when somebody comes to work, no matter what the position is, whether it's within the restaurant, whether it's within the front desk, maybe it's housekeeping, maybe it's maintenance, whatever it is, okay? There's a lot of information that is thrown to them. We all know that. I like to use the example of the rocks. You've all seen this, right? You take the jar, the empty jar, and you have people come up. And when they put the sand in first and the pebbles and stones, it doesn't fit. But when you put the big rocks in first, you've all seen that. It amazes me when I explain, when I go to in this case is a hotel, that's the world I live in. And I see that the training is broken down. And often I see that some of the people that have provided that training are seasoned, smart people, but they're still making this mistake, period. Nothing personal. This is just information, not accusations. The team is not trained properly. Why? That first couple of days, they were bombarded with everything. Impossible to retain. They can't absorb it all. So I started using this in a variety of models, and it works fantastic. The triplicate of choice, the Goldilocks methods, give them 3 options, 3, 6, and 9. I'll explain more what that means. Well, basically what it means is the first day on the job, there's 3 must-dos, 3 absolutes that they get trained. The next day, 3 more. So now they know 6. The next day, it's 9. You all have seen that model before, but it just amazes me how often that doesn't happen. Now, I also know that not every business can do that. But what I have seen through all these years of doing training in these wonderful industries is do the bite-sized learning. See there, small bits of information and spaced repetition. It improves recall. And there's a new word, and I just read this in an article by CoStar, which is a hospitality stat company, a guy named Tracy Gundy. I've never met the gentleman before, but he's with Everwood Hospitality Partners, and trickle immersion. Isn't that a great word? I'm going to get a tattoo later this afternoon that says trickle immersion on it. You give them little bits, but you immerse them. You really focus on those things. And I know in the perfect world, we'd have 7 months to train each person, and we'd have 40 hours a week one-on-one with them. And we don't live in that. But I do know maybe it's not practical to do 3, 6, and 9. Maybe it's 4, 4, and 4, whatever. The more we break down those things, it's been my experience when I'm training people, when we measure their actions to their results, less is more when it's done properly. And you know, it comes down to this: the big rocks, the must-dos, the should-dos, and the will-dos. You know, and when we do, and we're able to break those things down into those kinds of bite-sized pieces, we are absolutely, I've seen it work over and over again, certainly on the sales side of it and the service side of it. One of the things that we developed for a variety of organizations, namely one of the biggest ones, the Catalina Island Company, 23 miles off Long Beach. We took all of their entities, the hotels, the golf, the restaurant, the attractions, and we broke down service into 13 bite-sized modules. And we do one major training, and then we broke it down to 1 a week. We followed the Ben Franklin 13 Virtues model, where every week then everybody in that organization on this was focusing on the same thing. Bite-size immersion training had a huge, huge upside for developing their skills. So the next handoff is leading, okay? What does dropping the baton look like here? How many times have you seen other organizations, because this, I know this doesn't happen in your company, but other organizations and the hiring, everybody's upbeat and putting on the show. It's opportunity night here at woo. We even heck put cologne on when we interview the people, okay? And then we get them trained, give them the fundamentals. And now, boom, some organizations, they train them, they check the box, they're trained. And then the customer, the team member walks in, and it's almost like they feel invisible. It's like, okay, I'm done with you as a leader. Now go do your job. I've trained you everything. And I know that sounds dramatic, but that happens a lot. Here's a couple things that I've seen put in practice in an organization out of Dallas, just a great organization. It's called the business goals. There's 2 business goals. Obviously, to be the business that people want to do business with. You want to be the business with people. You're the favorite. You're the top service scores, the top value, the top all that. This gentleman that is VP of operations for Crya Hotels. That's who I'm referencing. He said, Bob, our goal is, yes, obviously be the place for people to stay when they're in town. But more importantly, we want to be the business that people want to work for. And it's as simple as it sounds. It's brilliant. Doesn't that make sense? Be that person, be that business that people are really looking to work for. And that comes with that leadership. That's just as important as the other 2 handoffs. And you know what we do when we doing leadership training, there's a guy named Phil Lee out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He's incredible. And he does this process, and he talks about who was the best leader or mentor that you've ever worked for and why. Have those leaders that are implementing your training, ask them that question. Who was the best leader, mentor you ever worked for and why? Maybe they were honest with you. Maybe they praised you when you deserved it, but then also gave you feedback when you needed it. We all know we have somebody. Every one of you right now on this call, when I said who was the best, you thought of somebody, and that's good. But now the other one, who was the least effective leader and mentor that you ever worked for, and why? Huh? A couple of you are going, ouch, that hurts, Bob. I've tried to forget that person. Oh my gosh. And here's the deal. My son has done quite well in business, and he worked for a wonderful mentor to begin with, and got recruited away as a new opportunity, and had probably the worst boss ever, worst owner of a company. I'm not saying that name, Sarah. You're not going to get it out of me here in our old backyard of Minnesota. But you know what? He said to me, he goes, Dad, I learned more from the bad management than the good management, because I learned not just what to do or not to do, but I learned how people feel when they're led that way. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it's kind of like you paid the cost of pain, you might as well get the benefit. So that's a great way to, when we're training these leaders, to use that model. Here's my most important thing. When I'm training in a property and I'm face-to-face, and in my side of hospitality, again, namely the hotels and the restaurants and casinos, there's nothing better than getting in a group of 15 folks that are just trying to figure out what they're doing with their lives. You all can relate to that. That's why you do it. You have those passion. You have those people that you're making a difference in. My number one question when I start any live session is I go around the room within reason, get more than 20 people, you can't do it. I'll say, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I get either I want to stay in hospitality, or I'm going to school, I want to be an EMT or a nursing assistant, or I don't know. The I don't knows, you got a real opportunity to maybe inspire them to do something for themselves. Those people in hospitality, the things you're going to train them are foundational for their career. Those people that are going to get out of hospitality, they can benefit as more as anybody else. Because here's the thing, look at what you train. Look at in your businesses that you are training on right now. By golly, look at the unique skill set that hospitality gives people. Who in your organization right now, the most important person in your organization is not the CEO of your organization. It's that new team member who's been working there for 2 weeks, who's belly to belly, nose to nose, face to face with a customer. Are you with me there? Give me a heck yeah. Well, I got you. I took it for granted you said heck yeah. Here's the deal. What do we train people? Do they have to learn how to multitask? Yes. Do they have to think on their feet? Oh, yeah. Do they have to know how to remain calm when all about you is chaos? Do they ever have to deal with difficult situations? Do they ever have to deal with difficult people? Right? Look at what we're giving these people. You tell me a career, and we're training these folks on, and this is my message to every single one of them. You will gain more from this training than the organization will if you apply these. These are skills you can't learn in a book. These are skills you can't learn watching a video or a podcast. These things will actually change your life. One quick story. My son, when he was a senior in college, he got a job at a hotel here at the University of Minnesota. Go Minnesota Gophers, woohoo, okay? And he was a van driver. He was a front desk, a valet, bellman, all that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget, he said to me, Dad, gosh, did you know, Dad, it's Christmas. I got to work Christmas morning. Did you know hotels were open on Christmas morning? I said, well, yeah, Nate, they don't kick people out for a couple of days. And then he graduated, and he's a great writer. I'm proud of my son, all three of my kids. And he got this job, or he was interviewing for this job, and there was 5 people interviewing. He was the only one who'd never worked in this industry, a very prominent PR firm. And they said, Nate, we've seen your writing. You have a gift, but we want to know about Nate, the person. Tell me about a time when, threat of success, all of Nate's stories. And he had studied in London. He worked for a large broadcasting firm in New York as an intern. But all of his true to life skills and in tough situations were working at that hotel. If we want to attract people and we want to mentor people, we got to get inside that psyche. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but that's a message that has to get down to that new supervisor, that newest leader. They've got to connect those lives. We're not just giving people a job. We are literally, as hokey as it might sound, changing people's lives. Help people get what they want, and they help you get what you want. I've lived that in 4 of my businesses. It's just the way it is. Couple business bits. We're getting up on our time here, so I'm going to go through this. The business bits, got to put the fun back in functional. If you've ever read the book, The Game of Works, Charles Kunrat, it is fabulous. It talks about measuring and competing and how people want to. This is something I recommend to all of the people that I've been training in this current time. And the second one, probably the best book I've ever read, is a resource, and it's relevant, more relevant today than when it was written, is Leadership When the Heat Is On. And oh my gosh, would you all agree that the heat is on right now? Yes. This gives you insights. It gives you some ideas that are practical that the leaders that you're training can use. And then morale, good old Ben Franklin, morale is a lot of little things. So that's just a couple little tidbits on leading. Now, the last part, duplicating. The third handoff, that sprint to the finish. Okay, now you're about 2 strides behind that other team. You've got an option to dig deep and go that extra mile, or trip the dude. You don't want to trip him, you get disqualified. That's not a good idea, okay? What does dropping the baton look like in duplicating? It's after we attract them and hire them, we give them skills and tools, we lead them and they become a good team member, but we act like they're in a bubble. Your greatest asset for growing and expanding, and from a training standpoint, not just business, your knowledge brokers, your recruiters are your newest employees that have been through this process that are fully engaged. Here's what I mean. You continue to train, you have to continue development. You train to motivate team members who can help you train and motivate others. That's where that undesignated leader comes in. And here's what we see, what we like to do. The best way to learn is to teach. Colby mentioned that I was a black belt. I had 2 black belts in different styles. And I remember my first black belt, I earned it. It was hard. I got the black belt. And I kind of thought, woo, I've arrived, man, I'm a black belt, woo, woo, okay. And my instructor, said, but Bob, I'm going to sound like the what was that TV show, Kung Fu, with Charles Carradine, Quan Chang Kang, you all, some of you are not old enough. And I know, Tara, you were born when I was married. Yeah, just go ahead, I get that. But go look it up. And he talked to me like almost in that same vein. The learning has just begun. And I'm going, oh, okay, that sounds interesting, but I didn't know what it meant. What it meant is when you know something, then you have to train it. It's the best way to learn it. Then all of a sudden you got to break down and say, what do I do? How do I do what I do? It's amazing, the learning. I learned that in the Army, okay? I was military intelligence, psychological operations for 9 years. And I love that part. And the best way to learn, if somebody didn't know a subject in the military, and some of you have been in the military, they make you teach a course on it. Get these folks early on, and I'm not saying the big technical things, get them teaching other people, duplicate them, because you can't be there all the time. Help them earn your job. Ross Perot said his key to success is he wasn't that smart, okay? He said his key is he was able to make people better than him. I'll never forget. I know I'm running up. I got about 4 more minutes, Colby. I'm going to make my timeline here. I'm at the Dallas airport, and all of a sudden I'm in the big Bass Pro Shop. And I'm walking around because I had a flight I was going to catch. I was early, so I went over there, and all of a sudden I turned the corner, and by golly, there's Ross Perot. And he looks, man, I looked at him like deer in heads. He goes, hi, Ross Perot. Okay. At the time, he had just finished running for president. And they said he could never be president because he wasn't tall enough. And I looked at him and going, hi, I'm Bob Anderson, and he's going, well, I don't care, but nice to meet you. And I realized something. He's taller than me. Tara, I can never be president. I'm kind of glad, okay? But help other people, and that's the mindset of trainers, to train the trainers to do that. If they can develop other people, they're never going to have to worry about a job, no matter what the situation is. Keys to duplicating. Ask their feedback in ways to improve your leadership. It's scary, but it's worth it. It's a hard conversation, but it's so important. I've got some of our team on here. And by the way, I'm going to speak for them. Everything I've told you, I've broken all these rules, okay? We don't have to be perfect in life. We just have to be applying ourselves. But have that conversation. What could you do better? Encourage positive discontent. Positive discontent in an outlet, an entity, a restaurant, a hotel, whatever it is I'm not just complaining, something needs to change, and here's 2 ideas to fix it. The most innovative ideas, I like to take credit for the lemon water in every hotel lobby. I was doing work for a company called Remington Hotels, and we used to manage their care committees. We had all the team members work together, come up with great ideas. And somebody said, hey, it's Texas, it's hot, let's have water. Well, water's boring. Let's put some lemon and some ice in it. I've taken full credit for every hotel in America that has lemon water in it, because I think it was a housekeeper that came up with that idea. Bite your lip when you're tempted to automatically blurt out. We've tried that before and it didn't work. To me, that is the kiss of death of negating communications. And you might be thinking it, but bite that lip, just bite it, it doesn't hurt that bad, okay? And hold your comments until you think through it, and use your leadership to allow them to come to a conclusion, whether it's a good idea or not such a good idea. I got 39 seconds left. Here's the key for duplicating. Tap into their sphere of influence. There's not a better group of people to help you expand or recruit than the people that are already successful, that you've developed that relationship. And we all know people tend to hang out with like-minded people. And if you like the team member, most likely you'll like their friends. Get that referral going. I know you all know that, but here's what I see. I see organization after that has a little attempt at a referral, new team members, when they're complaining about, well, we can't find people, and they do it for like a week, and that didn't work. Well, it didn't. You didn't apply it. You didn't stay on it. You didn't do it the right way. Get them to give you referrals. Now, the other thing, should you incentivize the process? I'm going to tell you no. I don't want to be an if-then kind of business. If you refer people to me and they get hired, I'm going to pay you. I want to do it because they want to see the business success. Now, nothing wrong with incentives later, but you can't just bribe people or it loses its appeal. Show me their friends and I'll tell you who you are. These people in this 4th handoff, this sprint to the finish, are your biggest asset in helping us to grow. So again, hire them, train them, lead them, duplicate them, help them be successful, and they'll help you be successful. We know that we still have some rocky roads to go. We're not over it yet with all the things going on, but we're getting there. And I'll leave you with these 3 things. Every business is different than every other business. You know how often I hear that when doing my consulting? Well, Bob, you don't understand, our business is different. Okay, it is different, but it's the same at the same time, right? Every business is different, but every business is the same. What's the common denominator? It's people who want to grow. It's people who are looking for knowledge, are looking for a place, are looking for a life, are looking for direction. That I don't care if you're at Ace Hardware, a Hilton, or if you're at TGI Friday. It's different, but it's the same. Every business must change and adapt. The best thing that we can say about this stuff we've gone through is it's made us change and adapt. That's a good thing. What's old is new and what new is old. I never get rid of ties because eventually they're going to come back in. I guarantee you ties are coming back in, and I got a whole closet, Colby, of ties, okay? Every business that does not prepare for the race will. I'm not going to answer that. You answer that in your own world. And you guys are the leaders of training and inspiring and giving people a track to run on. You're the key, and I believe this, you're the key to success in your organizations. But those businesses that don't prepare for this race and follow these types of things in their own kind of way, they will not make it, not succeed. So I hope this has found something that maybe was new, but equally, I hope you heard something that you already knew, but you thought, yeah, you know what? It's been a while since I did that. I want to thank you all, and Colby and Sarah and Tara, thank you so much for letting me share this time with you. All the best, everybody, and just go get them and just be successful. That's all I got. I'm going to go to the boat now. Bye.
Bob, thank you. Always great to see you, sir. Stay safe and stay away from the sketchy sushi, okay?
Okay, bye-bye.